for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I think that is the same, with these. The people who go dry in January, whether they overindulge in December or they overindulge in February, my experience in most of the people who do these kind of extreme things, they wind up overindulging. It doesn't inform a new identity because it is so extreme.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Business Lunch. You guys don't get to see all the behind the scenes stuff, but we just, I have for the past, 15 minutes been trying to start all of the computers and logins and screens and lights and everything. And Ryan has patiently sat there. So I'm going to say that, Ryan, thank you so much for being here today, because I would have left, I think, after all of that.
You would have bailed. If people only got to see behind the scenes of just what an absolute crap show we are, more times than not, I feel like they would be less intimidated. They'd be like, you know what? I can do this. I can do this too. I don't think they realize just how low we are setting the bar. But here we are.
So we are in January as we record this, having just turned over the first of the year. And there's a trend that's been catching on pretty well over the last few years that runs an entire month. And so I thought it'd be interesting to talk about dry January. So dry January, everybody gives up alcohol of all sorts during the month of January. It's a significant portion of the year. And so how does that affect your business? If you happen to be in a business of serving alcohol, it might be pretty significant. And if you don't have any alcohol component to your business, then are there ways to take advantage of it? So I personally have opted out of dry January. So I've not yet opted out of it by having an opportunity to drink, but I know we're headed to Las Vegas in a couple of days for our Traffic and Conversion Summit, where I intend to violate the heck out of dry January. Ryan, what are your thoughts on all of this?
So I want to talk about the business side of it, but can we just address, can we chat for a little bit about, I'd love to know, what is your take on these things like dry January, just from a personal perspective?
My personal perspective is, I know a lot of people in the hospitality industry, and they do it to prove to themselves that they can, that they're not out of control. And I knew a couple of sommeliers that would, from time to time, regardless of dry January, basically say, I'm not going to drink for a month just to show, because I drink so much in my job that I'm going to do that. I think for people like that, it makes sense. I guess if you feel that you might be having an issue with alcohol, it's a cool thing to be able to do. For me, I personally don't like extreme kinds of things like that. So to me, it's how about if you just drank 2 drinks a week, or, what if you could be socially responsible instead of it being all or nothing, which is also kind of how I go about setting goals these days. It used to be and I'm going to work out 17 hours a day, 8 days a week, every week, right? For the next year, that's my goal. That's not going to happen. So I try to find that reasonable, moderate middle. But I think it can be good for people. I don't, for me personally, I think it's just too much to try to do that. And what if the once in a lifetime opportunity comes along and somebody says, "Ooh, I've got a bottle of 1900 Chateau Lafite Rothschild," which we might have when you get over here. And I'm not going to get to drink that because this is the opportunity for that. And that's so I don't like it from that perspective. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, same as I think similarly, if somebody wants to do something, I'm not going to tell them they shouldn't. So I'm speaking from my perspective alone, not knocking anybody who is doing it, but the people that I have seen do it, I've found that one of two things happens. A lot of folks will, because they are planning to do dry January, lose their ever-loving minds in December. And it's sort of it's this whole idea of Mardi Gras, right? This idea of Fat Tuesday and the Mardi Gras. It's let's go nuts and have an absolute party because we're about to begin Lent. And I think I think that's really dangerous. Again, yeah. It's I'm giving myself permission to make bad decisions today because I'm going to make a sacrificial decision tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And I just think from an identity perspective, you've got to pick. Are you somebody who drinks a lot? Are you somebody who doesn't drink at all? Are you somebody who's going to moderate yourself? So if you want to do this as kind of a challenge yourself just to make sure that you don't have some kind of chemical dependency, fine. But when you use it as an excuse, then I see the same thing with people who do fitness type things or weight loss. It's okay. I'm going to start doing the gym next month or next week or next year so I can eat whatever I want right now. That is, I think, when it becomes dangerous, when a future decision becomes a crutch or a reason to make bad decisions today. That's when you're not doing it for the right reasons. That's kind of the first bit. But I'm the same as you. Like, I'm really only interested in things that I know I can sustain because I just know me and I know the way most humans work. This idea of I'm going to do some extreme thing to kind of get myself primed and ready to sort of shortcut it in the beginning. It sounds like a good idea. I'm sure if one were to spreadsheet it out, it could make all kinds of sense. It just never works.
Yeah.
Right. It never really works. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I think that is the same, with these. The people who go dry in January, whether they overindulge in December or they overindulge in February, my experience in most of the people who do these kind of extreme things, they wind up overindulging. It doesn't inform a new identity because it is so extreme.
Agree.
Not a fan.
So from a business standpoint, just kind of looking through it. So if your business happens to involve alcohol, if you're in hospitality, you own a bar, you own a nightclub, something like that, which I think is probably most of the people that watch us, then
probably not.
The opportunity is to embrace changes to your product line, like mocktails. I bought, because some of my friends are doing dry January, I bought yesterday a couple of bottles of non-alcoholic tequila that are going to come to the house, and they're made with agave and stuff. It's just that they do it. They still age it. It still allegedly has all the kind of tastes and everything as tequila, and it's good for mixing margaritas and stuff. So I thought it'd be interesting to try that. So I think it does create an opportunity for you to have product lines if you're in that business, but probably most of you are not actually in that, despite the fact that Ryan and I are notorious nightclub fixtures, like at all the major nightclubs across the world.
Yeah, we were always getting table service. That's just how we roll. It's what we love more than anything else is going to a really loud nightclub, spending way too much for usually garbage alcohol, all so that you can just scream in the ear of the person next to you so they can hear you. That's just my favorite.
Well, most of the enjoyment for me, I mean, I know we do the bottle service and everything, but we never take the VIP route. We like to wait in the main line because networking opportunities are tremendous there, So but one of the things that you can do is you could use it as an opportunity for social things and for networking, speaking of networking. So think about that. Anytime that you have people that are rallying around a common theme, trend, whatever, as much as it might be a TikTok challenge or something like that, it can also be something like Dry January. So IRL, right? If you're in the real world and you're looking for opportunities to network, to me, this is a big one, to have promotions and marketing around Dry January, anything that would support it, anything that would align you with anybody that's got an affinity for doing something like Dry January. To me, it's a big opportunity. I think it's an opportunity for media acquisition as well, because there are several groups that are quite large that have been built up online and offline around Dry January. So if you're looking to access a crowd, I don't know how specific, like maybe you can think that people that would like to stop drinking for a month would be people who normally drink. So maybe if I was selling those kinds of things, I'd want access to that audience so I could say, hey, and we're putting together a heck of a party once this is over.
I want to be there for the rebound, in other words.
Right. From media opportunities, I think there's something from like consulting. We had to talk with a lot of people about consulting for equity. I think it's an opportunity to maybe talk about, as a consultant, how you can integrate wellness programs into corporate clients and things like that. I think health and wellness, people who are thinking about drinking are probably thinking somewhat about their health, no matter how remotely that may be connected to like better living. So I think if you had yoga, self-improvement, meditation, any kind of thing that is going to help you to be more well, then that's probably a good opportunity for you to tie that in to the promotion that's going around this month, and do something with that. Do you have any ideas around those kinds of things?
Well, I think the broader kind of macro question in this, so this applies for hospitality, bars, those kind of things for Dry January, but I think this applies for all businesses. Anytime something like this, a trend like this emerges. So when a trend like this comes out, you've got to ask yourself, is this trend kind of pulling people away from my business, or is it pushing them towards? Obviously, if you're like bars and hospitality, any type of alcohol, this is a trend that is pulling them away. Now, if it's pushing them towards, that's amazing. Like those are tailwinds. Like let's run, let's promote it, let's ride this wave as much as we can. But let's talk about what you do and how you respond if there is an active trend that is pulling people away from you. We saw this a lot with like when Atkins and low carb and no carb diets was a huge thing. If you're a sandwich shop, if you're an Italian restaurant, like what does that mean for you? And I think what you have there is you got three options. Option one is you could try to go with the trend, which I think is what you're suggesting. So if you have, if you got a bar and it's dry January, then this is where you're advertising. We've got mocktails for dry January, and you want to bring in everybody who is in this trend. The other option is option two. The other extreme is you go completely against it, and you say, "Screw dry January. Our place is for all the people who are still drinking and aren't afraid to admit it." The third option is you say nothing, speak nothing, and try to starve it of oxygen.